But a difficult summer for families who make their home along the Kuskokwim River.
Drastic measures were taken to protect the king salmon run, which was projected to hit another record low. Things got confusing when the federal government stepped in to manage kings on the lower river from Antioch to the mouth, while the river above Antioch remains under state control.
Since May 20th, there's been a complete ban on king salmon fishing, an unprecedented conservation measure. KTVA 11's Rhonda McBride joins us with part one of her series, Season of Sacrifice. Rhonda.
Well, Joe and Emily, things are finally starting to look up. People are finally getting a chance to put up some fish. In part one of our series, photographer Jacob Curtis and I bring you a snapshot of what it was like the day before restrictions were lifted near Bethel, when tensions were still running high. For most of the fishing season, a strange air of quiet on the Kuskokwim, but the airwaves, an entirely different matter.
It's been a tough summer as we try to protect the salmon.
There are very few places where you'd have a 2-hour radio show dedicated to king salmon. One of many this year, but it's that important.
I'm John Active.
Where else in the world would you hear the discussion in both English and Yupik?
We have a call from James at Nabuskak. Good morning, James.
James called to complain to state and federal fishery managers about gear restrictions for the next subsistence opener.
Said he doesn't like the idea of using only 25 fathoms of a net.
I'm going to put you on hold, okay?
With news that fishing restrictions are gradually being phased out, callers sound less angry.
Native way of life, unwritten rule.
A few weeks ago, Fritz Charles stirred controversy when he said he heard about threats of violence on the river.
They are starting to meaning organizing, getting together.
Charles says reliable sources told him that people were planning to fish illegally for kings and carry guns and rifles with them.
The main concern was lives being lost. You cannot replace life. Salmon will always return no matter what.
So far, nothing like this has happened. In fact, the opposite. People have willingly complied to save the kings.
It's heartbreaking.
Walter Snyder has not fished at all this summer. It's been a huge sacrifice.
I love fish camp.
These racks would normally be full by this time of the year.
Because we used to catch them left and right, and we used to fill up our racks with kings. My parents used to, when I was a little kid growing on up.
Walter hopes to get some fishing in soon. He's followed the talk on the radio about the prospect of violence, and he's glad it's just talk.
I was hoping it was just a rumor. Because if they try to do that, that's wrong.
Snyder says it's good the focus has now turned to fishing. But the late start makes it hard. The flies are starting to come out. The good drying weather will soon turn sour. The rhythms of the season out of kilter. What was right and natural seems suddenly wrong.
When the fish are in the river, the elders say, fish till you drop.
It's wrong to let the fish swim by. At the radio station, the job of balancing two worldviews never ends. Charles Enoch reports in 2 languages.
Yupik is kind of an intimate language.
A language in which the word for fish, nika, is interchangeable with the word for food.
You should never, ever argue over food. In our culture, there's a big taboo on conflict over food.
The belief that fish and animals are highly sensitive to human emotions, and conflict drives them away.
Sorry about the wait.
For now, it looks like the fighting will soon be over.
When can we be assured with our sacrifice that we'll make mid-range of the escapement?
I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll get there.
The hope that at least 90,000 kings are on their way to their spawning grounds, a journey of not just death, but also life. Tomorrow, we'll take you to Martha and Walter Larson's fish camp near Bethel. We'll show you how they've adapted in this season of sacrifice. They've managed to keep their traditions of cutting and putting up fish without catching kings.
KTVA 11 News Nightcast.
As we continue our series tonight, Season of Sacrifice, we look at how the people on the Kuskokwim River near Bethel have adapted to the ban on king salmon fishing.
KTVA 11's Rhonda McBride takes us to some fish camps to see how people are coping. Rhonda.
Well, Joe and Emily, from their rich, buttery taste just to their sheer size, you can understand why thousands of households on the Kuskokwim are mourning their loss. But in this season of sacrifice, people have had to seek alternatives. As a native leader, it's Tim Andrews' job to care, and this season of sacrifice has him worried.
And there's some salmon that are up there, but the next one is empty. And normally it's just orange and there's full of life, there's children swimming.
And the sweet smell of smokehouses.
And it's just ghostly empty.
Some families have managed to put up fish using nets with smaller mesh. Fishery managers allow these because when the kings hit them, they just bounce right out. Even so, you can catch a lot of whitefish and other kinds of salmon. We stop in on the Larsons, who have done a great job of navigating around all the restrictions.
Hi!
The work of putting up fish is about done.
We enjoy every bit of what we have up here.
And we feel one with the nature.
Walter and Martha Larson make it all sound easy, but it's not.
We had a brown bear come in here and made free with the salmon that we have.
A setback they weren't expecting.
These are red salmon, these two. This here is a chum.
With smaller fish, it takes more work to fill up a smokehouse. If these were kings, they'd hang a lot lower.
All the salmon should be that long.
Bring me a rubber glove, says Martha to Walter as she cuts fish cured in the smokehouse.
Ooh, thank you.
They're not the prized kings, but still good eating.
Look at these. Aren't they just beautiful?
The Larsons have a large extended family to feed.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 of us, plus my sister. That's 20 of us eat, share all this we catch every summer.
And share the work, as well as the cost, like the money spent on a new net to meet the restrictions.
But there are out there in the villages, they don't have no money in the bank, and they rely on fish, what they catch in the summer.
The signs are already troubling. Someone raided their neighbor's smokehouse.
All the fish that they had sweated for was all gone because someone came along that didn't have it and decided to take all of it.
Cut deep into the subsistence lifestyle, core values that now seem as threatened as the kings. What makes the pain sharper? Frustration over increasing state and federal limits on fishing. Tim Andrew compares it to regulating a grocery store.
The only way that you can possibly go to the grocery store is with a bicycle, and the only amount that you can possibly get from a grocery store is the basket in front of you. And also, you can only get meat from 1 till 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
The Larsons are making the best of this season of sacrifice.
This is a red salmon that I made into kite.
A kite that flies in the face of adversity. Our course on Fish Camp 101 barely plumbs the depths of a deep river of knowledge. Now, in this series, many of you have wanted to see some kings, but people weren't catching them. Of course, it's illegal to do so, but I did ask people on Facebook to send me some photos of Cusco kings so you can appreciate the scale. This is a photo sent to us from Tommy Bayakok, his late father, Pavlos, taken back in the mid-90s. Just look at that. It's probably almost as tall as me. So you can see why they're so prized. That's one fish that probably fed lots of people.
So, Rhonda, you were out there for a few days. Did you try the fish?
I did. I tried some of those red salmon strips. And I'll tell you, they were great. I mean, everybody loves kings, but those are pretty darn good. I wouldn't pass them up.
Yeah, who would?
Well, now that king salmon are well on their way to the spawning grounds, fishing restrictions on the Kuskokwim have been relaxed.
That's right, but there were some difficult days getting to this point, and all week long, KTVA 11's Rhonda McBride has been giving us a look at what's been a season of sacrifice, Rhonda.
You know, for fishery managers, it has really been a delicate balancing act, trying to provide some opportunity for subsistence fishing while keeping fishermen from taking too many kings. Amid threats of violence and frustration, the first opener in the Bethel area last week was like a pressure valve being released. As the fog lifts, a sense of purpose fills the air. And for the first time, fishermen can use nets with wider mesh. Many are headed out early, including federal agents, to enforce the rules. But most seem to want to avoid scrapes with the law.
We're ready to rock and roll. It's gonna be crazy out there. Yeah. It's gonna be a lot of people.
Also on board, two friends, Paul Smith and Ivan Chiklak, who will handle the nets. And then there's John's son, James, and his daughter, Madison. Oh, and there's Trooper, who likes to keep watch on the river.
Holy moly. Look at all the boats, Rhonda.
There are a lot of them. The reason why?
We're only limited to 4 hours of fishing, so everybody wants to get their fish.
4 hours, such a narrow window. In years past, when the kings were strong, you could fish for several days at a time. Like a string of pearls, floats stretch across the river. The treasure hunt for silver swimming below begins.
We'll see what happens when I'm on this set right here, and hopefully we'll catch.
John is fishing mostly for his mother, the others for their families. He does get cold, doesn't he?
Yeah. We call those, when they splash like that, we call them smokers. Yeah, they're trying to force themselves through the net. Unfortunately, they're caught.
One after the other, and another.
I hope we catch a king.
Not any just yet.
I know there's some big chums, though. Yeah.
Finally, though.
And here's a king. One king.
Oh!
I'm just super excited to be out here.
Elation gives way to stress as the federal patrol makes its second stop.
Hey, you got any kings? Just one.
The feds also want the net shortened.
I think you're a little long.
It appears a little too long, even though McMillan told them he measured it beforehand.
Hard to describe words what I feel.
Everyone on this boat says they understand the need to save the kings, but still...
Why do you gotta check us? We're just trying to catch food for ourselves so we can eat during the winter.
But it could have been worse. Some fishermen were shut down completely. And while there are the regulatory snags, there are the real ones.
Sometimes it gets snagged so bad, we have no choice other than to cut our net.
Luckily, it didn't come to that. But the crew heads to shore to untangle the net, which cuts into fishing time. But at least on this trip, their ties to the river are renewed.
This river is our lifeline. When it's running, even if it's frozen, it's still our lifeline.
The hovercraft cruises by, a reminder that river traffic will soon return once the nets are out of the water. In this season of sacrifice, even a little fishing time helps to keep hope alive. Cute kids in that story. But you know, for weeks the fish camp racks had been empty, ghostly empty, but now they're starting to fill back up again. And tomorrow night, photographer Jacob Curtis and I will take you out to a fish camp near Napuskiak, where we'll see how happy people are to be putting up fish, finally.
Wow, it's great. Look forward to that. Thanks, Rhonda. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what we celebrate on July 4th. And for many in rural Alaska, that means living the subsistence lifestyle. But on the Kuskokwim River, that's been harder to do this summer due to a ban on fishing for king salmon. Well, tonight, KTVA 11's Rhonda McBride joins us for the final part of her series, Season of Sacrifice. Rhonda.
Well, Joe, it's been a touch-and-go summer with people mourning the loss of the kings or Chinooks while waiting to fish for some other species of salmon. The big worry, would the timing of the king run keep their nets out of the water? Would the restrictions lift in time to put up food for winter? Throughout our series, series, photographer Jacob Curtis and I have brought you the ups and downs of a roller coaster season.
I mean, it's totally devoid of life, and it's normally just bustling. With indications like what we're seeing here, it's pretty scary.
This was the day before fishery managers finally lifted gear restrictions, which cost people weeks of valuable fishing time. Tim Andrew also took us out the next day to witness the transformation. Although barges bring food and other goods, the river is the real grocery store. And you might say everyone here is filling up their pantry. After fears of famine, finally, food for winter. In the Yupik language, that means be thankful. Even though there's a lot of hard work ahead. So much fish.
26. 28. I'm very happy. Thank our Creator God for fish.
The word for fish and food are one and the same in the Yupik language. Food for the body. Food for the soul. And food to carry on the culture.
From our generation to generation, ancestors, that's what they've been doing for a long time. It's passed to us. And I'm trying to pass it to my grandchildren too.
A big part of that tradition is sharing. Although these are not the prize kings Marie Larson normally shares with widows and others in need, she's grateful fishing restrictions were lifted in time to put up these reds and chums.
At first I was worried. I kept talking. And my husband told me, just hope that we'll get enough fish, and we did.
Marie Larson's husband, Chris, is the tribal chief of Napaskiak, one of the leaders who asked federal fishery managers to make an exception to the ban on kings. And they did, a very small one. Napaskiak was one of 32 communities to split an allocation of only 1,000 kings based on population. Napaskiak has 500 people, with most households averaging a catch of 50 kings. For 500 people, how many fish?
38.
That's not a lot of fish.
No.
So how did Napaskiak split 38 fish? First, a community meeting.
And then we decided we must give some fish to the elders first, and the people that cannot fish.
In this season of sacrifice, more than 65,000 Chinooks made it to their spawning grounds. The problems are likely out in the ocean. But the burden of conservation falls on the people here, and without their help, the Chinooks might disappear forever.
There should be an incredible amount of gratitude for the sacrifices people have made to this date on the Chinook salmon.
Tim Andrew says that there should also be a national debt of gratitude because the fish also migrate through federal waters.
Beautiful day. Beautiful day.
The pursuit of happiness here means having enough to share.
We're okay now.
And by doing their part, people in fish camps just like these continue to share what is both a state and national treasure. Now, since people really weren't catching those big Chinooks, we couldn't show you how much more fish there is in a king compared to a chum or a red. So we asked people on Facebook to share some of their photos of kings caught in years past. This one is from Harry Jackson in Queeflook. And then here's another one from Dave Cannon in Aniak, taken at a fish counting where look at the size of that. And fishery managers hope that this season of sacrifice will keep these big, beautiful fish coming back. And Joe, I just want to thank all those people who did send me their photos. It's really interesting to see them.
Yeah, the whole series is quite interesting. Thanks for bringing it to us. Appreciate that, Rhonda.